Go tell that long-tongued liar. Oh, tell that midnight rider. Tell the gambler, the rambler, the backbiter. Tell of God I'm out to cut him down. Tell of God I'm out to cut him down. Stop, God Almighty, let me tell you the news. My head's been wet with the midnight dews. I've been down on my bending knees, talking to the man from Galilee. My God spoke and he spoke so sweet. I thought I heard the shuffle of the angel's feet. He put one hand upon my head. Great God Almighty, let me tell you what he said. Go tell that long-tongued liar. Go tell that midnight rider. Tell the gambler, the rambler, the backbiter. Tell them God Almighty gonna back. Tell them God Almighty gonna down.
Good morning, everyone. This is John with Gun.Deals, and today we have another video on a CVLIFE product. This is also called the WildHawk, but this one here is a rifle-focused dot. But before we get into all that, while you're here, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe, as that is free and does help us out quite a bit. And go ahead and comment your favorite budget rifle dot in the comments down below. Now, full disclosure, once again, this was part of a set of red dots that they sent out to Gun.Deals for review, so we did not pay for these. Keep that in mind for the rest of this video. Now, speaking about payment, if you were wanting to acquire one of these yourself, you would have to spend roughly 150 to 170 units of measure of whatever unit of measure you're thinking of currently, which is a little bit more expensive than your basic budget tier red dots. Think your SIG Romeo 5 or MSR or whatever other favorite micro red dot you can think of for a rifle. That is a little bit higher, but it does also boast a few extra features, some of which on paper sound very, very nice. Getting into those features, what we have here is not a 20mm window, but it is a much larger 25mm window, meaning that you get a much bigger view screen than your standard T1, T2 size optic. Now, even though the window is larger, you do still retain the T1, T2 footprint, meaning that you can use standard low mounts, tall mounts, whatever you want, so that you can mount it on a variety of different platforms. I used the included mount on the BRN 180 Gen 2, and on this AK, this Wasser 10 that you see here with a Raider's Arms carbon fiber handguard out front, I used it with a low mount and it works very well. So you get a big window size, but you still get to use it on your regular mounts that are cheap and ubiquitous, and you can set it up for whatever platform you want. In terms of controls, on the left-hand side of the body, we have our illumination settings. We have a plus and minus button. We have 7 daylight settings and 1 night vision setting, which is not enough. This is a daylight only optic. Even though you might think that that bigger window might have better light transmission for night vision purposes, there simply aren't enough settings for it to actually be useful. Fortunately, the daylight settings do get more than bright enough for me. Talking about the dot itself, you have a 2 MOA center dot, and then you have a selection of outer reticles that you can use. You have a 70 MOA outer ring plus hash marks, and you can get rid of the circle if you want to, so you kind of have 4 reticles, but really just 2. I usually just use the 2 MOA dot, as I don't use the ranging features, though you can use the ranging or holdover features if that is what you practice and you're more comfortable with that. Also on the body are exposed windage and elevation, though they are flush, so you shouldn't accidentally actuate them without intentionally doing so, and the click increments are in 1 MOA, which is perfectly fine for a red dot. That is very little margin of error for whatever you're actually shooting on. Unless you're shooting out to 600, 700, 800 yards, that slight error in 0 is almost never going to be an issue. So for me, not that big of a deal. For some reason on the body itself, they also included these rails that I suppose are sacrificial if it did happen to get dropped at like a 45-degree angle on one of the sides. Maybe those would take some of the impact, or you can remove them if you don't want them there. On the right-hand side of the body, we have our 2032 battery, which is rated for a insane 100,000 hours of battery life, because also on the body is a solar panel or power supplementation. How it's supposed to work is if you are outside and have direct sunlight, it will actually automatically switch from battery power to supplemental solar power. So it will actually, instead of using whatever rate on your battery, it will automatically switch between battery and solar. So it's not just a solar failsafe like you see on a lot of Holosun optics. It's not a solar failsafe, but it is a solar supplementation, so it will actually extend your battery life out to what they claim 100,000 hours, rather than when your battery actually dies, you get some supplemental illumination from the solar panel if you're outside. This will actually extend your battery life by switching the power mode depending on what's actually available, which is quite interesting. While that is a very cool ability to have on paper, I have no way to independently verify that, considering that the battery life in 100,000 hours is greater than 10 years, so having it for about a month or so simply is not enough time for me to test those claims, and would need to be verified somehow by a third party whether or not it actually does switch power modes quickly and automatically between solar and battery to extend your real life. On paper sounds great. Does it actually work in reality? I'll report back in 10 years. Talking about the glass and big window, I personally prefer 25mm windows. I find it much more pleasant to use than any of my micro SIG red dots. Not quite as nice as a Romeo 8T or a Neotech, but a step up, a step in the right direction from your small micro tube red dot sights. I do subjectively like it more. Do you need it? Probably not, but again, I subjectively like it more. On top of that, the glass is pretty much color free and distortion free. There's no warping or magnification that I can tell when I'm actually using it. The dot looks relatively crisp to my eyes. I don't really have an astigmatism in my right eye, but for you gentlemen out there risen with the tism, your mileage will vary. Fortunately, on this WildHawk, I did not experience any of the flicker or glare issues that I experienced on the pistol version of their WildHawk, so this actually performed really well. I didn't have any issues with it. When it comes to like raw mechanical performance, most red dots are extremely boring as long as they don't have any glaring issues, no pun intended, because they all kind of just do the same thing. Subjectively, I like the big window. I think the dot looks good. The price for feature set seems to be all right. The included mount is not bad. It is QD. It worked fine. I'm just swapping it out to the low mount on the AK, but I would also probably swap out the base mount if I wanted to a Geisley or whatever you want to put on there for my real builds, but so far the dot has held up just fine, which you would expect it to. So while in my testing subjectively I like the bigger window, the performance is fine, the features on paper are there to truly give any optic a recommendation, but this one specifically, I would need a extended amount of time on it, plus hopefully trying a few more samples in between now and then to actually give my full seal of approval. Now, also another thing they had to think about with CVLIFE is they are a relative newcomer. I'm not sure if this is like one of their own in-house designs or if you actually want the feature set that it has, if you want the bigger window, and if you're willing to fork out, you know, a medium price for a budget red dot, if that makes sense. If you're looking for some sort of positive indicator for me or a reason just to waste some money, it's good enough that I'm going to continue to play around with it and evaluate it and use it into the future, and I'm willing to give them a shot on some of their claims and see how it holds up long term. But with all of that out of the way, gentlemen, let me know what you think of the CVLIFE WildHawk in the comments down below. What other medium-sized red dots you want me to take a look at, especially if they're in this price bracket. And with all that out of the way, gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Peace off.